everyone. My name is Wayne.
And I'm Rebecca.
And we are your Bourbon Journey.
Welcome to episode 2 of Bourbon Trail Tales and Tastes. Today we're going to take you to Bardstown, Kentucky to visit Bardstown Bourbon Company. How did we get there? Well, it was kind of an interesting story actually, because back in May of 2021, so their little trailer came to Varsity Liquor Store in Southern Indiana, Evansville to be exact. And we got to try out some things there, taste some things, make our first purchase of Bardstown Bourbon Company juice. And they gave us 2 free passes to come do a tour there. In fact, it was called the Distillate to Barrel Tour. So we tried to get a tour in November of that year, and we just weren't able to work out the weekend because we didn't know how far in advance you needed to plan. April of 2022, we finally got to go to Bardstown, and here we are. So Wayne, tell us a little bit about what you thought when we first drove in the parking lot.
When we first drove into the parking lot, the first thing I noticed was they were building a Rickhouse, and it was basically about half complete. It was at its full height, but it was a pure skeleton. And we walked in, and somebody in there mentioned that it was about $3 million that it cost to build that one, and they've built many more since. We got inside, and we went ahead and had an old-fashioned.
Which was terrific.
It was very, very good. So after our old-fashioned, we walked upstairs where the tour guide led us on a mini tasting. We had 2 different white dogs, which actually has kind of led me on liking moonshine now.
And it was pretty interesting because one of them was their wheated mash bill for their bourbon, and the other was their rye mash bill for the bourbon. So we got to see it really in its infancy. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't that crazy about it as 120 proof, but somehow when you didn't like high proof stuff, you really liked it.
I did enjoy it, yes. The other 2 things were a 3-year-old bourbon, if I remember correctly.
That's right, yeah.
And the last one was, was it Fusion 7?
Exactly, it was the Fusion 7. Fusion 7 was a while ago.
It was.
So after this tasting, which was really interesting, and he did a great job of explaining everything, then he told us to get up and grab headsets from the back of the room, which we thought was very interesting. Again, this was our first real distillery tour, and I don't think we've had a lot of headsets on many of them. I mean, I could probably count on one hand the number of times we've had headsets. But anyway, we put our headsets on, and he led us around this long hallway that took us over to the side of the building that was the distillery. And we opened the doors, and it was very warm in there. I remember the heat coming off and that amazing smell of mash cooking. And then we walked through the process, and we spent a lot of time at the fermenters where we think we got to taste it, didn't we?
I believe so. It was my first experience, and it was very different from the wine experience in California. I'd seen big wine vats and all that when it was going through the process, but I'd never, of course, seen bourbon and or whiskey, I should say. And it was really, it was fun. It smelled great. It actually kind of tasted good. Mm-hmm. It was very, very different.
Yeah, and then after that, he walked us through the entire process. And of course, we had part of it early on with the distillates. But then we went outside and walked to, I wish I could remember the number of the Rickhouse, but you walk down the path and you turn to the left. It's the same one that has the library in it where they have some events. But we got to taste whiskey thieved straight from the barrel. Mm-hmm. Did you love that?
It was interesting. At this point, honestly, I'm kind of wrapped my head around this stuff, and to me, I just basically was picking up a lot of heat. I didn't pick up a lot of flavors then, but it was cool. It was fascinating to me.
Yeah, and you said it was cool, and it was literally cool.
Because
it was April, and it was a warm April day, yet it was very cool in the Rickhouse. So again, it was our first Rickhouse experience. To smell that angel share and see how cool it was in there, even though it was warm outside. The whole thing was really fascinating. So then after that, the tour kind of wrapped up. We went back and did a neat pour of something they had for sale, which was Discovery 7. And we liked it so much that we decided to buy it. And unfortunately, this is not that bottle because we drank it all. So
we ended up liking it.
We liked it a lot, and it has been long gone. But we had picked up another bottle on a subsequent visit, and we think we've made almost 10 visits there. And They still had it, and this one was signed by head distiller Nick Smith, So we pulled it out and opened it up just for this video today. And we're very excited because it's been a very long time
It has.
since we have had Discovery 7. So let's talk a little bit about what Discovery 7 is all about. So first of all, of course, it was their 7th in the series, and it really celebrated how they worked to blend things together. This one had a ton of blends. 2 of them were from Kentucky, 1 was Tennessee, 1 was Indiana, and this was their first one to have an international barrel, and it was from Ontario. And that Ontario one was actually 100% corn whiskey, so that's pretty interesting. But that's how this one was blended. That's pretty much what they do, and I'll put that up on the screen so you can see the exact percentages of that if that interests you at all. And the proof of this is 114.5. So let's dig in. It's been a while. Let's revisit.
It's been a long time.
It's a pretty color, not super dark,
No.
but I would say it's a golden amber. It's got some pretty decent legs and some good body on it.
The legs are pretty good.
Let's smell it. It's very sweet.
There's honey.
Bit of brown sugar.
We're getting a bit of the wood from the barrel.
Oh, I agree with that. There's some really nice sweet oak notes. It's a little floral. I'm not sure where that's coming from.
It honestly, it reminds me, and it makes me silly to say this, but it reminds me why I really, really like Bardstown.
Yeah, exactly. Shall we go ahead and taste it?
Yep.
Here's to Discovery 7 once again.
Cheers.
I think it's reflecting the nose very well.
It is. I'm getting, the only thing I would add is, as far as the finish, I get a little bit of black pepper.
Mm-hmm.
There is a tiny bit of cinnamon that's the spice I'm picking up in it. Kind of, a lot of times that's sort of your basic stuff, and that's what I'm getting on this. And
on the palate, I'm getting the brown sugar again, and I'm still getting some of those floral notes. I can't pick it out because you mentioned honey on the nose. I wonder if it's like a honeysuckle. The floral note reminds me when I was a kid and I used to go out to the honeysuckle and suck on those little flowers. But I don't know if any of you did that, so it depends on where you grew up. But maybe that's what I'm getting is the honey note from a honeysuckle. Which is really good.
I think the flavor and the nose match pretty closely.
And I'm finding that it has a very long finish. It's lasting quite a while. I mean, it is 114.5 proof, so you kind of expect it to do that somewhat. But there's nothing beating you up in the finish. It's very long and warm and inviting. I can see why we polished off the first bottle.
Oh yes, it's very good.
And now that this one's open, it may not have a chance either. So that was very good. Any other thoughts and things from that first visit there?
No, other than, well, there is one other thing. It was kind of mind-blowing for me. When we were walking through, there was a question asked, and it was about the barrels that were in the Rickhouses. And the gentleman leading the tour made a comment that at that time, 85% of the barrels that were in the Rickhouses there were distillates from other companies and or people. And I just remember sitting there and my mind was blown because the first thing that went through my mind was these guys are having their entire business built by other people. That just really fascinated me. And their long-term goal, they also stated, was they eventually wanted it to be about 50-50.
Yeah, and for me, I'm a business professor, and I just wanted to interview the entire team right then and there. That has never happened. I'm just going to be really honest about that. But it was just such a great case study in how you can get a distillery up and running without, selling gin and vodka and moonshine. And some people have to do that, and we're not criticizing that in any way, shape, or form. But they took a different take on it to be able to build these really a lot, and they have so many Rickhouses now. And now they also do contract distilling. There's probably a lot of brands that you really enjoy that you don't know are contract distilled there. And by their specifications, of course, but they're doing it for them. And then there's another whole group of brands that they store there. It's a brilliant model. And interaction we've had with them has been, I would say, top notch.
Mm-hmm.
We've done 2 additional tours for Rickhouse Thieving. We also did a tour with Mint Julep that involved blending, and Dan Calloway led that. Imagine Dan Calloway, he's got this brilliant nose and mind and palate, and teaching us how to do blending. I still felt like I didn't quite catch up that day, but it was great. And we went to a special dinner there one night, which was fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Every encounter we've had has been great, and it's a great gift shop to visit too if you're in town and can't get a tour, because you can always sit at the bar and do a tasting. You can do a flight or go to the gift shop. They have a great job of having their current bottles for sale.
They do.
Probably better than most distilleries, I would say.
They do. One time we were in the gift shop and I was wearing my McBrayer hat, the DSP 17. And the gentleman asked me about it, and I said it was McBrayer, and he goes, well, come here. And so he took me into this room.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a room where basically they have some very expensive bourbons that they have for tastings.
Vintage bottles.
Very old bottles. And he got up on the ladder and got the very top and pulled down a 1903, I believe it was, Cedarbrook. And Cedarbrook is one of the lines that the McBrayer family did back in the day that's now been revived. And it was really cool to get a look at that bottle, really slick.
Yeah, I think a tasting would have been how many hundreds?
It was $1,600 for, I believe, a 1 ounce pour.
So we did a pass on that. I wasn't in the room at the time. I'd gone to the restroom, so I missed out on this part, but it's okay. Yeah. But I hope you've enjoyed while we shared our memories. I've really enjoyed, kind of recalling this and, of course, tasting this fine spirit here. And join us next week when we're going to visit Preservation. So cheers out there to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Always remember to drink responsibly, and let's go with some Discovery 7 here. Cheers.
Cheers.